Today we're being joined by Pia Robello Britto, Global Chief and Senior Advisor for Early Childhood Development at UNICEF. She's here to talk to us about what children need right now and how parents can be supported by governments and policies and employers to support them at this difficult time. So Pia, what do children need right now? Have any of their basic needs actually changed?
Thanks, Natalie, so much for this interview and the chance to speak to audiences about the importance of young children in particular and what they need right now. So what we do know is that children are not the face of this pandemic, but they are at the risk of being amongst its biggest victims. So while thankfully young children have not really seen or have had minimal sort of clinical impact, we do know and we do going forward that this crisis may have a profound effect on their well-being. Because what we know these first years of life, the child's brain has this potential to create more than 1 million brain connections every second. And this is truly phenomenal because these early moments are in a once in a lifetime opportunity to build a child's brain. So what science tells us is that effective or good early childhood development happens when children are nurtured, stimulated, they have play, learning, they're cared for, they're protected, good food, nutritious food. And when all of this comes together that we call eat, play, love, then we have the maximum potential to develop the brain. Now, at times of crisis like this, what's happening is that basic supports are being disrupted. And what we need to focus on is a rebalance in the combination of core interventions that we had in place to support early development and minimize the impact of these basic standard physical distancing and lockdown strategies. And in particular, in low-income countries and communities that have the most vulnerable children. The second thing we need to do is we need to continue this continuity of child-centered services. These have to be prioritized, and in particular, looking at equity of access. So what young children need is they need this early learning. They need responsive feeding, nutrition. They need basic immunization, newborn maternal childcare, community-based childcare, and these need to be prioritized. And I think most importantly, we really need to provide practical support to parents and caregivers right now, because they are the front line of this response. And at this time of adversity, young children need to feel nurtured. They need to feel protected. They need to have safe environments, good food, and meaningful interactions with those caregivers or parents in their life. So this is what all parents need to continue to do. They need to be that buffer between children, what's happening in the world around them. And in order to make that happen, we have to provide practical supports to parents and caregivers during this time of crisis.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is that those changes aren't, the needs aren't changing, but the way that they're delivered or the way that the support is given is changing. And what sort of policies or support is UNICEF advocating for right now?
Yeah, so this is really important because families really need these policy supports. And so what we know is 99% of the world's children are living with some form of pandemic-related movement restrictions. And about 60% of the world's children are living in countries with full or partial lockdowns. And many parents have either lost their jobs or are working from home. So this is all putting immense strain on family life. And parents and caregivers are faced with a new reality. Even if it's temporary, it is a new reality where they now have to find ways to stimulate their young child's imagination, ways to keep them healthy and happy and learning in this challenging environment. So in order to do this, we at UNICEF have been thinking about what is the extra support that parents need that enables them and supports them, and this support from governments, communities, and employers. And what we know is right now, because they are these frontline responders, governments and employers must strengthen social protection measures, especially for vulnerable families. And employers should continue providing employment and income to guarantee financial support for those who lose their jobs. And so we've come together to say there are a core set of family-friendly policies and practices that include employment, income protection, paid leave to care for family members, flexible working arrangements, access to quality emergency childcare are some of these key policies or practices that can make a difference. And what they do is they enable parents to protect and care for themselves and their children while also enabling them to enhance their productivity and have a sense of security.
Okay, great. Yeah, and some of that, what you're saying is basically maybe a silver lining that beyond this, these are things that people have always needed and they just need it more so now.
Very true.
What resources does UNICEF have to help?
Yeah, so we put our resources together in a couple of different ways, Natalie. The first set of resources are for parents. They are the frontline responders. And we have a parenting portal at unicef.org. And what we try to do with this parenting portal is provide parents with accurate information, up-to-date information, and ways in which they can speak with their children, support themselves, take on activities, to help them during this time of crisis. For example, we have a very nice storybook. You know, a lot of parents are finding it difficult. How do I talk to my child about sort of this invisible crisis that's out there? You know, how do we have this conversation? So we have a book. It's called My Hero Is You: How Kids Can Fight COVID-19. And there's a fantasy creature called Arya who helps children understand what is the disease, how can they protect themselves. So children themselves become heroes in the story. And we've done this with many agencies and partners working on mental health and psychosocial support. We have input from over 1,700 children, parents, and teachers around the world. And these are sort of the tools we have created, in addition to also creating guidances for businesses and employers. So we also have tools and guidances for them in terms of what are recommended practices, what are ways in which they can create safe environments for their employers, for their employees who are also parents, and take care of them with respect to leave, with respect to healthy habits. So we've sort of created this composite resources of information for parents and for those who can create the enabling environment for this to succeed.
Okay, great. We'll link to those with your video. And I've read the story to my 3-year-old and she liked it. So that is a good resource. Pia, we're so lucky to have you and have some of your insight at this time. And I'm wondering if there's anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up.
Yeah, I want to send a message of solidarity out to all parents and caregivers around the world. We are all in this together. We are the frontline responders to this crisis. And as parents are fulfilling their roles, they need the environment for children, and they're trying to create the right environment for their children. We are united in this. From a father in Cox's Bazar refugee camp in Bangladesh, teaching his young children how to wash their hands and keep safe, to a mother in Lagos, Nigeria, comforting her child who can no longer go to school, to a caregiver in Colombia, playing with her young children. All of us parents are in this together, trying our best in this incredibly challenging circumstance. So let's come together in unity, let's elevate parenting, and let's overcome this crisis together.
Thank you. Yeah, I think good parenting has never been more important. So thank you so much, Pia, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.